Ant-Man and the Wasp was exactly the kind of film we needed after the heart-wrenching conclusion of Avengers Infinity War. But aside from giving us some reprieve, the film also answered a whole lot of questions we had about the quantum realm, and the potential connections that Scott Lang will have when it comes to defeating Thanos. Speculations aside, the film also featured something else that Marvel movies are known for: a whole lot of Easter eggs. So we're back at it with 10 more Easter eggs and reference for you guys, with our list of the top 10 Easter eggs you missed in Ant-Man and the Wasp Part 2. Also, in case you guys didn't already gauge from our title or our intro, there's some pretty major spoilers for Ant-Man and the Wasp in this video. You've been warned. And at number 10, Hot Wheels. Hank Pym is the kind of guy who always comes prepared, and Ant-Man and the Wasp definitely highlights that trait. But one standout aspect had a few collectors of miniature toys really excited. Hank carries around a Hot Wheels storage case in the shape of a wheel, an easy way to have vehicles ready on the go whenever he needs them. But what's really cool about the case is that it looks like an original, which is pretty awesome considering that suggests that Hank has kept this case since it first came out in 1960s. It's a big collector's item. And at number 9, The Fly. There's a moment in the film where Luis sees the giant ant and says, "Scott?" This is a reference to The Fly, the 1986 David Cronenberg film, where the protagonist is an eccentric scientist who slowly turns into a fly hybrid creature after one of his experiments goes haywire. Scott's story, to an extent, does share some similarities to The Fly, so it makes sense that perhaps this is what comes to mind for Luis. And at number 8, Big Tiny Objects. Going into an Ant-Man film, you know that you're likely going to spot a bunch of normally small objects that have been enlarged. From lifesavers in the first movie to a giant Pez dispenser in this one, it should come as no surprise. This time around though, Hank Pym's laboratory is filled with oversized toys and other trinkets, including enlarged Duracell batteries. According to the filmmakers, the goal was to have fans wondering if they're watching big heroes made small or small sets made big. So, what else did you guys notice from the laboratory? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know what your favorite trinket was. And at number 7, Ex-Con. In this film, Scott's ex-con buddies have now formed a new business together, a security business known as Ex-Con, aptly named. Aside from having a cheeky name, the business has ties to the comics too. While Luis, Dave, and Kurt only exist in the MCU, the business itself is in the comics, and it's associated with Lang. But instead, it's called Ant-Man Security Solutions, which first debuted in Ant-Man issue 2 back in 2015. In the comics, Scott actually hires 2 reformed criminals to help out with the company, called Grizzly and Machine Smith. Also worth noting, fans noticed the Ex-Con van in the trailers for the movie, so if this Easter egg sounds a bit familiar, that's why. And at number 6, Adam and the Ants. So this one is cheating ever so slightly. So if you guys saw our part 1 Easter egg list, you'll know that director Peyton Reed wasn't afraid to use a bunch of ant references in the film, specifically the classical Hollywood cinema creature feature, Them, which was all about ants who, through radiation, are turned massive. Well, it turns out the trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp contained another ant reference. The song playing in it is called Ants Invasion, by the band Adam and the Ants. Reed confirmed to a fan that it was in fact an Easter egg. And in the film itself, another Adam and the Ants song is used, called Ant Music. I guess you might as well keep everything topical when it comes to ants. And at number 5, Throwbacks. There are several throwbacks in Ant-Man and the Wasp that parallel or reference moments from the first Ant-Man movie. For starters, the film starts off with a flashback. Second, Scott and Cassie's play heist is reminiscent of the fact that the first Ant-Man film was a heist movie. Third, there's a point in the film where Luis, fearing Ex-Con's end, repeats to himself, "I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss."
I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss.
There's a lot more too, including the way that ants are used to cover security cameras. What else did you guys spot? And actually, our next number has ties to both the first and second Ant-Man movies too, even though it's a bit more subtle. And at number 4, Coffee. Back in the 70s, there was a whole genre of films referred to as blaxploitation. Essentially, they were movies that emerged in the US that featured stereotypical black characters. The kind of stuff that, looking back now, is absolutely cringe and totally awful. But at the time, they were some of the first films to actually feature black characters and communities as being the heroes. One of those films was 1973's Coffee, a movie starring Pam Grier. In the first Ant-Man film, the movie uses one of the songs from Coffee's soundtrack, Escape, by Roy Ayers, which is played when Luis explains the Hank Pym heist to Scott. The song makes a return in this movie, too, when Luis is being interrogated by Sonny Birch. Moving on to number 3, Jimmy Woo. In the film, Scott is being tracked by an FBI agent named Jimmy Woo, meant to keep tabs on him after everything that went on during Captain America Civil War. Agent Jimmy Woo has appeared in the comics too, as a secret agent back in 1956, on the hunt for the Yellow Claw, a Marvel supervillain that was a massive Asian stereotype, and a communist Mandarin. Yeah, yikes. Not the best representation back then. Jimmy Woo, another Asian character on the other hand, would go on to become the head of the Atlas Foundation, working in a superhero team known as the Agents of Atlas. While some think that his appearance in the movie is a hint to the Agents of Atlas making an appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, others are pretty skeptical. The team hasn't had an overly huge presence in the comics, with a history of appearing in the hypothetical What If Marvel comic series. Regardless, it would be nice to see Jimmy Woo further integrated into the MCU. Up next, number 2, chalkboard fun. There's a whole sequence in the film where Scott shrinks down to the size of a child. Aside from being incredibly comical, there's also a scene at the school where you can see a chalkboard in the background. There's writing on it, with instructions to students to rewrite a list of phrases, using a plural possessive noun. One sentence reads, "The flowers that my ants grow," but rather than it being ants, as in the family relative, it's ANTS. It's a nice little play on words. But speaking of chalkboard fun, moving on to our number 1 spot, The Matrix. Lawrence Fishburne has made many an iconic movie appearance in his career, but perhaps his most notable performance is in the Matrix franchise, where he plays Morpheus, the character who introduces protagonist Neo to the fact that humans are plugged into a simulated reality. While it's been a long time since the first Matrix film was released in 1999, Morpheus hasn't been forgotten, especially by the filmmakers behind Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you look at the blackboard behind Lawrence Fishburne's Bill Foster in one scene, you'll notice something written on it, mixed in within the equations. It's the word Matrix. Alright, there we have it, friends. Which of these Easter eggs did you notice the first time around? Were there other ones that you spotted that we should know about? Fill us in by commenting below. Also, be sure to check out part 1 of this list, and if you're feeling like more MCU and Ant-Man, make sure you click on the playlist currently flashing on your screen. And subscribe to Top 10 Nerds so you never miss the latest in everything comics. In the meantime, guys, thank you for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.